welcome back to another episode of the Super Sports Flash. I guess it's just the Sports Flash. I'm so used to calling it the Super Sports Flash, and I don't normally do the intro. But Joe's not here this week. He's a hardworking boy. So it's just Clack and I. Clack, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. About to be my weekend after tomorrow, which is always nice.
Fun.
Watch some sports, get to catch the first game of the Warriors, which we'll talk about later. But so you were gone this last week. Regale us with your tales of the SEC Baseball Tournament.
I could go a long way. The SEC Baseball Tournament was some ups and downs if you're a Bama fan. It feels like basketball all over again, minus knowing that we have an SEC championship and a Sweet 16 to fall back on. Was a long week. Went from being extremely happy about our season to knowing our season was over in about 24 hours when you have a 5-run lead going into the 6th and you wind up losing by 4. Wasn't the close that I wanted to the weekend. We'll get into that, but I think if I learned anything at the SEC Baseball Tournament, it's that Tennessee is the new LSU of college baseball, and that's kind of a bold statement considering the fact they haven't won a championship yet. But why I say all of the whoever met was Tennessee fans, I mean all 10,000 fans minus myself pretty much was in orange.
Right.
Every game that Tennessee was playing. So there was that. It was a fun weekend of baseball, but that's about it. I got a lot to say about Alabama.
Kind of reminds me, I got to go to the SEC tournament for basketball 2 or 3 years ago. It was in St. Louis when I happened to be home, and literally everyone in the stadium were Kentucky fans.
Yeah, just
because
replace the Go Big Blue with Go Big Orange.
Right.
And
exact same thing.
Sometimes louder and rowdier because it's 12 o'clock. It's midnight when they're finally getting started. I think it really went to show how much the game of baseball is America's pastime. When you're midnight playing, 1 o'clock on the East Coast, might I add, getting started, and it's literally 5 seats open at midnight. That shows how much baseball is really America's pastime.
Right. And so Alabama specifically, they started off the tournament with a win, right? Who did they beat?
Beat Georgia 5-2 or 5-3 on Tuesday, and then
lost
beat
to
Arkansas on Tuesday, on Wednesday 4-3. But it all fell apart against Texas A&M, who was the hottest team in the country coming in, winning the last 7 series and had just could not be touched. And it started off just absolutely crazy. It was 6-1 at the end of the 3rd inning. Bama was just rocking along. Texas A&M did have 5 errors in 2 innings. To make that assisted with that, I mean, I've never seen that many errors. And anyway, so Bama comes out swinging, and then 5th inning home run, 3-run home run, and I think the wheels just fell off. And from then, next inning Bama would lose the lead. Another 3-run home run, I believe, or excuse me, it was a 2-run double, and then a solo homer. And it was just the wheels fell off. Bama couldn't get it out, couldn't do anything, and then it was suddenly 11-6 after being up 6-1, a 10-0 run. 10-0 run in baseball, and 10-0 run in basketball is bad. 10-0 run in baseball is
atrocious.
Atrocious, especially when you're supposed to have one of the best pitching staffs in the SEC, or thought you did, and you just when you go from pushing all the right buttons to pushing everything you push is wrong and nothing's working. It was heartbreaking to see, especially when what's frustrating to my biggest issue, and I'll get into this when we talk about the NCAA tournament, was when your coaches and stuff build this team up and be like, this is the best team since I've been here, and then you squeak into Hoover by 2 games, and then you come into the SEC tournament having to win to even get into the NCAA tournament, and seeing that slip away, and then you're like, okay, rebound against Florida tomorrow, and within 5 pitches it was 4-0 Florida. So I'm like,
yeah, they started about to come back, right, and then fell.
No, they came back and tied it 3 times. Florida would go up by 2 or more runs 3 times. Bama would come back to tie it every time, and then bottom or top of the 7th, Florida takes the lead, and it was just the wheels fell off. It seemed like was the story all season is, one little thing would happen, the wheels would fall off, and then another 3-run homer. I don't know why we were giving up. It seems like if there was 2 men on base, we were going to give up a home run. Give up, I think, 4 3-run homers this last week. So was 3-run homer, 11-6 again. That was pretty much it, and obviously that would be the final score. It's just exasperating when you think that you finally turned the corner and then you haven't, and you're back to square one, wondering what next.
It's interesting too that you bring up the whole Coach Bo saying this is the best team they've had since he's been there, because we heard the exact same thing about softball, and softball as well. They started off really hot, and they looked like they were a shoo-in to go far, and then got eliminated in their own regional that they were hosting. So,
well, I think that, obviously when you have a SEC championship and you have done good things and you have that default. Patrick Murphy's done so much for Alabama softball. Sure. We're defending SEC champions, semifinals of the College World Series, woulda, coulda, shoulda won it all last year, but just ran out of gas. Look, Patrick Murphy has so much to fall back on. He could have 2 or 3 seasons like that. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, he's still a great coach. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that it will ever happen. But, it's easier when you have something to fall back on. It's just like football. Football goes 10-3, 9-4, whatever, just throwing numbers out there. Mm-hmm. You have six national championships to fall back on. Who cares? Yeah, you're going to have a bad season. But when you are, and I'm not trying to be critical of Coach Bo, but when you're in year 5 and you have nothing to fall back on and you have another bad year, you start to wonder. It's like there's nothing to fall back on there's nothing that has shown us that he is going to take us somewhere besides, 2 or 3 games in a regional. Am I saying he won't? No, but does it look good right now? It doesn't. That's just it just is what it is. It's not it's pointless to sugarcoat it at this point because mm-hmm. What has Bama baseball given us in the last 5 years to show us that the future is bright? And there's been nothing. There's been glimpses, but let's be real. Mike Shula. I know this was a long time ago, but Mike Shula started off 10-0 in a season. Mike Shula had some great wins, but ultimately, he was not going to take us anywhere past a Cotton Bowl or whatever. And
right.
I know baseball and football is different when you're Alabama, but it's really, to me, I'm starting to wonder what next.
Right. And I noticed that all over Twitter, and I've brought this up before, but I'll bring it up again. I just have such a big gripe with people calling you like a fake fan or saying you can't cheer for a team and also call out their coach. I see it every time like a coach disappoints, right? And especially like you said with Coach Bo, it's been 5 years now where nothing of substance has happened. How long do you want to wallow in mediocrity as a true fan before you can finally start to question, coaches, right? I love Nate Oates, right? But say the next 3 or 4 years he doesn't make any noise at all in the tournament, doesn't make it or gets bounced first round, whatever. How are you at that point? Are you not a true fan if you start to question his?
I think that assertion is ridiculous to me that people say all that, because I'll one up what you just said. I think if we make the tournament and lose first round or don't make the tournament, then the next season he's in the hot seat.
Right.
We got to stop. If Alabama, every time you hear a pregame video, whatever, all you hear is excellence, greatness, whatever, legends. Where if you're gonna say that you're gonna thrive for that, then show it. Because and I think wanting that, people like I said in the post when the season ended, the regular season ended, we all want the same thing. We all want success. We have different ways of doing it. And I'm just getting tired of the rhetoric that just because we don't all have the same ideas that person's a bad fan. Like, I mean,
right.
Twitter knows how I feel about Coach Bo. I don't go at someone else who thinks he's the greatest coach of all time and be like, oh, you're a bad fan because you don't like this. I mean, here's my end statement to all that is, as Americans, if we don't like the president, that doesn't mean we don't like the country. That doesn't mean we're not a true fan of our country and that we should just leave the country. That means we just don't like what's going on now. And that's the kind of how it is with teams. It's like, just because you can still love the team, you don't like who's leading it. I mean, if we kept this same rhetoric, we would have kept Avery Johnson, and we all know where that would have led us.
Yeah, and I mean, I take an issue to some point, like to some extent, with some people saying stuff about the teams, right? Like during the national championship game, I got mad at you and Joe because at halftime you guys are like, "Oh, the game's over." That's where I take issue. Wait till the game plays out. But with the whole season in review, the whole body of work complete, I don't think it's a ridiculous statement. Shoot, even with Nate Oates, I don't think it's a ridiculous statement to not be pleased with how the season turned out this year. I don't think that makes you any less of a fan. I think that makes you a good fan that you're.
I mean, I can agree and tell you I think you're wrong. I mean, we can all disagree. I think
right.
I mean, we're all going to disagree. I remember that you're right. The night after the Natty, none of us were very happy with anything. But I mean, the thing is, it's not like, I mean, I don't accuse someone of being a fake fan because of having different opinions is just ridiculous. And, some rumor got started. It's amazing how one thing like that gets other things started. Mm-hmm. I read a tweet the other day that said that I had apparently wished for us to lose the last 10 games that Bo would get fired. Why the hell would I do that? I'm like,
right. Why as a fan would you ever root for your team to lose?
I mean, I would never do that, but it's just like, I don't think wanting someone to fire a coach makes you a bad fan. I mean, yeah, we all want to, at some point, want to fire a coach prematurely. I almost texted in the group when the Blues lost because I was pissed that Burby should be fired. Well, I mean,
he's part of the reason we got as far as we did.
I know. I agree.
But,
it was, and how many times I've ranted on Steve Kerr when he does something stupid.
Who's a future Hall of Fame coach who's in prime position to win his 5th title as a coach.
I mean, I still think pulls Steph too early and stuff, but anyway, that's beside the point. But I mean, I think it's normal to get, especially in the heat of the moment of a loss, especially, it's easy just to fire off something and then like, okay, that was an overreaction. I mean, we all know someone in our group message, not named Tyler or Joe, or not named Tyler or Clack, that thinks games are over in the 3rd inning.
Right.
Joe.
That's really funny to me. But yeah, I mean, I completely understand. Last year, I was towards the end of the year, I was calling for Mike Zimmer's head for quite a while, and I don't think I'm not a true fan or anything. In fact, I love the Vikings. Like, that's my favorite sports team out of any team. And I don't think accepting mediocrity when you can be better and being frustrated about it makes you not a true fan. If anything, I think that does make you a true fan, wanting what's best for the team, even putting your personal loyalties aside, right? Like I liked Mike Zimmer as a person. He seemed like a cool dude. I had nothing against him. But I also accepted that, it's time to look elsewhere. So
ultimately, you did, and we'll see how that works out.
And I'm really excited, and I'm ready to be heard again.
My biggest thing is, one more thing on that. My biggest thing is, what if? The thing is, for me, it's like, what if I'm right? What if we're so balanced and determined to keep this coach and tell everybody that wants to fire him that he's wrong when, there's another coach out there that would love to come here. We take the job and we go to freaking Omaha. I mean,
yeah. And the argument too is always like, what if the next coach is worse, right? But does that matter if this coach isn't good enough, right? So to use the Mike Zimmer, what if Kevin O'Connell is worse than Mike Zimmer? Well, we didn't make the playoffs the last 2 years anyway, so does it really matter if he's worse than Mike Zimmer? You always got to be looking for a better.
The point is, we all have opinions. I think it's time especially, I mean, no matter what, even if they're fans of other teams and stuff like that, I think it's time to learn how to respectfully disagree and not be, what's to people for having a different opinion. And obviously on Twitter, that is not possible. And then
no, Twitter is awful.
And it's ridiculous that people can't have differing opinions, different political opinions, differing whatever, without being treated like crap. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I mean, I guess it's just the country we live in. It's just the world we live in. But anyway, rant over.
Twitter to me, I think is has just for sports discussion. There's some great sports discussions that happen on Twitter. And there's some great, I've seen some great content come from Twitter, and I love it to death, and I will always be on Twitter. But also at the same time, Twitter can be the worst place to talk about sports. I don't know. But so speaking of the NFL, we were talking about the NFL a little bit. I mean, I kind of shoehorned Mike Zimmer in, but there was some NFL news. Baker Mayfield, they came out, Mary Kay Cabot said that he's not likely to be cut by the Browns. There's some teams that are still looking to trade for him, but they want the Browns to take on most or if not all of his salary. So, I mean, what do you think happens? Do you think he's going to end up getting traded? Do you think he'll be on the roster?
I think he'll wind up somewhere like Seattle or not Green Bay, Carolina.
Yeah. I agree because the Browns would be dumb not to get value while they can, right? He's going to leave anyway.
Do you really want him to? Do you want him to? If he's not going to do nothing, do you want him to just sit there and hold back? Here's the only thing. Here's the only thing that it just kind of crossed my mind is: do you want him to sit there and make every how much he's making, and have a hold on your salary cap like that? No, but the fact that Deshaun Watson is suspended for 4 games.
What incentive does Baker have to play though? If I was Baker Mayfield and they said, "Hey, we just traded for this guy. He's going to take your job. We know we said you were our starter. We're going to commit to you, but we just lied to you. Can you come start for these 4 games?" What incentive does Baker Mayfield have to play? He's just going to say no. In my opinion, he would be smarter just to go, "No, why would I play for you? Lose the games." And then in that case, in my opinion, the Browns put themselves in kind of a weird situation here. But I don't get the argument of, they don't want to pay his salary or whatever if they trade him. But if they don't trade him, they're not going to get anything for him, and they're still going to be paying his salary. So at that point, it's just sunk cost fallacy. You might as well trade him, even if you have to pay his salary and get something out of it. He's going to leave regardless. So that's how I stand on it.
I mean, I think he's on the opening day roster, whatever you call it? No.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think once preseason is getting geared up, or once teams get more into OTAs, I know OTAs have kind of started up, but I think the trade will happen before preseason starts, and he'll be with the team. Well, I guess I shouldn't say before preseason, before the season starts. Maybe a team like Carolina doesn't like what they see in Matt Corral. Maybe the Seahawks don't like what they see in Drew Lock. One of them will trade. One of them could trade for Baker Mayfield.
Agreed.
And also, Baker Mayfield's still relatively young, right? He's 25, 24, 25. So he could still improve. And he played last year with a really bad injury, in his throwing shoulder, that he tried to – that's another reason, too, is that he tried to play through an injury because the Browns wanted to win games. And then he didn't play well because he was injured. And then they went out and replaced him because he wasn't playing well enough while injured. So it's kind of a lose-lose for him.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald came out and is in contract negotiation with the Rams still, but he came out today. Who knows if it's hardball or not, but came out today and said that his goal was to play at least 8 years in the league, and he'd be fine with retiring if they don't strike a new deal. What do you think about
Aaron Rodgers' treatment? I think it's Aaron Rodgers' treatment of bluffing to get what you need, what you deserve. I mean, I think if anybody deserves a huge contract, it's Aaron Donald. I mean, the man was, single-handedly leading. I wouldn't say single-handedly, but I mean, he's the force on the Rams defense, who was the best defense in the NFL. So, I mean,
he is potentially the best defensive player ever. Like, that's not even an exaggeration. He's won 3 Defensive Player of the Years, 8 first-team All-Pros in 8 years. Or maybe it's I think he might. Maybe it's 7 first-team All-Pros in 8 years. Wow, what a loser!
The man's well worth it.
Right. You give him whatever he wants. He is pound for pound maybe the best player in all of football. And so
yes.
I think that I kind of agree. I don't see him retiring this early.
I think he's you can look at like Cooper Kupp and say they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl without him, but I think we all know the one player they would not have won a Super Bowl without and would not have even been remotely close to the Super Bowl is Aaron Donald, because he leads that defense.
Right. He almost always is near the top of the league in sacks from like as an interior defensive lineman. That just doesn't happen.
I mean, how many times does he rush a quarterback into making a bad throw or whatever? And I mean, you're not going to run the ball consistently against him. Not that anybody in the NFL cares to run the ball anymore, it seems, but you're not just gonna beat him. And I mean, he's still got the same energy he had when he came into the league. He's one of those guys that you can't wear him down, no matter what. And he is a lot of fun to watch. So, I mean, give him what he deserves and keep him in LA.
He made the game-winning play, too, against the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
He did.
Jalen Ramsey got beat deep because they were playing, like, shallow coverage because they were expecting quick throws. Jalen Ramsey got beat on a go route, but Aaron Donald basically hit Joe Burrow before he'd had time to throw the –
Always surprised Jalen Ramsey got beat, though.
Yes. He's a very good player.
He was not – he struggled in the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but like I don't think he got beat so much as the coverage was designed to get beat deep because they were sending like an all-out blitz and just trying to keep him from getting a first down. And Joe Burrow apparently like audibled into it at the line. So,
but yeah, I mean, I think he's worth a lot. He's one of the many jerseys that I have, so definitely would love to see him get paid a lot.
Right. Some less happy news. Former 2019 Vikings first-round pick Jeff Gladney died in a car crash this morning. I think it was 2:30 a.m. in Texas. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any details that came out yet, but he was most recently on the Cardinals, or he's on the Cardinals now. He got cut by the Vikings in 2021 after a reported domestic abuse case came out, and then I think just recently last year he got cleared of like any wrongdoings by the court. And I remember that led a lot of people, Vikings fans, to be upset that he was prematurely cut or whatever. And I mean, he was 25 years old. His life seemed to be on the up again. He made the roster for the Cardinals, was starting to get playing time. It's just sad.
Yeah.
Like, and it seems like
right in the last month too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is it seems like this year, especially like this offseason, it's happening like a lot more often than normal, right? Like there was the Henry Ruggs situation first, and then Dwayne Haskins, and then Jeff Gladney, and it's just it's never a good thing. Like these are people whose whole lives and ambitions and dreams and stuff got cut short. And he had a 1-year-old kid as well. He leaves behind a 1-year-old kid. So
not know that part.
Mm-hmm. It's just tragic. That is. And I mean, I've seen a lot about it because obviously a lot of our people that are still on our team were super close to him because he got drafted with them. And so it's just, it's a sad situation.
Bad times.
But I think that's enough with the NFL. Let's talk about some NBA. Finals is starting up on Thursday. First game 1 in Golden State, the Oracle Arena. Is it still Oracle? They changed, the Chase Center. I don't know why I'm still thinking Oracle. In my head, it's the Oracle Arena. But it's on Thursday. Celtics Warriors. And just off the bat, who do you think's gonna win? Like the series.
I don't want to say what I think because I don't want to make it not happen. Because
okay. Then tell me all the situations that aren't gonna happen.
We both have the same team here and want them to win, but I'm gonna go the consensus pick to everybody's and go Warriors in 6. I've seen Boston has struggled too much, and I think at some point the struggles they've been through, they barely got by Milwaukee, Who was our first round team?
The Raptors, maybe.
I believe has all their series has gone to a game 7. No, Philly played the Raptors.
Philly played the Raptors. Let's
Yeah, I
see.
remember
The
that
Hawks played someone.
Hawks played the.
Oh, it was the Bulls. They played the Bulls, right? Or was it? No, it was Bucks Bulls. Who am I forgetting?
I don't know how we're.
Right.
I'm gonna pull that up as we speak.
No, I want to just sit here and look. Oh, they played the Nets. They swept the Nets.
Okay.
Because the Nets were the only team that got swept. In the first round.
Goodness.
Some preparation we did, huh?
Yeah, like some of these things you just think you automatically know and don't even look it up, and you realize you don't even actually know it.
Right.
But I think they've played with fire one too many times, and it's going to come back to bite them against Golden State. I mean, you can only get through so much without finally it all coming down. I mean, they're going to make it competitive, and they're going to be good in the Garden just because that's who they are. But I don't see Golden State losing at home, honestly, because that's just where they thrive is at home. Yeah. And I think Golden State wins it at home. I think they'll close it out at home. I'm sorry. I think they will win it all at home, and then still win in Boston in Game 6.
Game 6. Gotcha. Yeah, last series for the Golden State Warriors against the Mavericks, I predicted. Well, I jokingly said a sweep, and then I said no, but actually it's going to be 4-1. And I will say the same thing. I'm predicting a gentleman's sweep. They're going to close it out in Golden State. Talking to you beforehand, I said 6-2. Or 4-2. I have changed my mind a little bit. I think that the Warriors are going to win in 5. I think that one game, you're not going to be able to stop Jason Tatum from going supernova all 5 games. So it's going to happen one game. He's going to score like 40-plus points, and the Celtics are going to win. I'm predicting that'll be Game 4. So they'll stave off. It'll be 3-0. They'll stave off elimination. I guess that's exactly what happened in the Mavericks. But, I think history is bound to repeat itself. I think the Warriors are a better overall team. I think they have more star power, as good as Jason Tatum is. I think that they're deeper. I think that they have played tougher teams and still, had basically looked effortless. Like you said, Boston kind of struggled with all the games except against the Nets. I think that the Warriors looked pretty good. I mean, they beat Memphis, who was one of the hottest teams in the league and one of the deepest teams in the league, and they beat them in, was it 6 games?
Mm-hmm.
And then did they sweep the Nuggets or did they beat them in 5?
They swept the Nuggets.
Gotcha. So then, yeah, there you go. They swept the Nuggets, and that was the team with the reigning MVP. I don't know, something about the Warriors, it just feels like their year to me.
Yeah.
It feels like, and I if you go back to Joe and I's very old shows, I predicted that coming into the year that the Warriors are going to be like a team to watch for the championship. So I'm so proud of myself. It's not like it takes a rocket surgeon to predict that one. They have a bunch of people coming back from injury that were future Hall of Famers. So anytime you can add basically 3 future Hall of Famers back to your team, you're going to be pretty good.
Agreed.
But I think this is Steph Curry's year. I think he's going to win Finals MVP finally and help cement his legacy as, in my opinion, maybe the second best point guard of all time by the time he retires. Which is a hot take. I know a lot of people, I found out especially NBA Twitter, isn't as high on Steph Curry as I am. But I have not seen a player in our generation change the game of basketball like he has. Like, you see it, you go to the YMCA, you go to the park, you go like actual pickup games, you go see competitive games. People are chucking threes like there's no tomorrow now. Everyone wants to do the step back threes, the fancy dribble, fancy pass and stuff.
Even Alabama thinks they can model their game after him sometimes.
Right. You look at like Jaden Shackelford, for example, takes a bunch of deep threes every time he catches the ball because of like Steph Curry kind of normalized that. And before him, it was like you had good 3-point shooters. But before Steph Curry, all the best 3-point shooters were spot up shooters, right? They weren't. Mm-hmm. You have Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, and they were all like catch and shoot type guys. But Curry changed the way the basketball is played, and I think his impact is so good that, in my opinion, Magic Johnson I put above him, but I don't know if I put anyone else.
He's definitely impacted the game in a great way. I mean, you see your people, there's Dirk, there's Kobe that have all had their signature shots that I feel like even the best of the best tries to emulate. Even your LeBrons and stuff try to emulate that. And, he's implemented that, or he's gotten that, pull from anywhere above half court. Heck, if you're Curry, sometimes you pull before half court just because you're Curry.
Right.
If it's Curry, it's gonna go in. I don't think anybody but Curry can make it at half court for no random reason, just pulling it. But I mean, nobody other than maybe Magic and Kobe have transcended the game like he's done, especially with making it more of a 3-point shooter game. And honestly, it's gotten to where one thing I love is it's like every player on the court can shoot a three. If you're the Warriors, I mean, I feel like a requirement to play for Steve Kerr is you have to be able to shoot a three. I mean,
right.
Even Kevon Looney, I believe, has had a few threes. I mean, well, I actually know he has. I think a requirement to play for Steve Kerr is you have to be able to shoot threes decently, and I love it. I love what it's done, but it's also frustrating when you're a team that cannot shoot a three when you're like Alabama and you just refuse to make one, but you continue to pull them. But yeah, he's transcended the game so well, and I think it would mean so much to him and to his fans to see a Finals MVP. And once he's done that, he's completed the trifecta. He's NBA champion, Finals MVP, regular season MVP. He's done it all. And a multi-time All-Star, he's done it all. And
just this season, All-Star Game MVP, Magic Johnson Western Conference Finals MVP, new thing they implemented this year.
I think there's nobody that deserves it as much as he does. I've always been a huge fan of his, and I think that this may be his year to finally cap it off.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. You bring up like Alabama because not only do individual players model their game off of that, but like whole teams and their offensive philosophy now is you look at all the teams now that are run and gun type teams. And, I think Curry had a large part to do with that. The being able to take it and pull as soon as you get to like the 3-point line and like really push the pace of the game. I think that it's impacted whole team strategies for better or for worse, right? You could argue maybe.
How much do you think Steve Kerr's had to do? What is the biggest, here's my question is, what is the biggest, I hear this, excuse me, all the time is, super team, of course, are going to win it all. But, I mean, you look at this, you look at Mark Jackson's last year compared to Steve Kerr's first year, same exact team. What has Steve Kerr done that has made this team so successful?
I think, honestly, Steve Kerr has kind of played to his team's strengths really well, right? When Steph Curry was MVP, Steph Curry, he would let him take these ridiculous shots that any other coach would have benched you for. He's adapted and started running the offense through Draymond Green as a distributor, which I don't know if any other team would do, right? This power forward that's slow and can't shoot and can play really good defense. You're going to let him be maybe your main ball handler? That's crazy. Like you even look at the past series against Memphis and against the Mavericks. Against Memphis, Jonathan Kuminga was starting, 7th pick overall in this draft. He got, I think, like 0 minutes or like 5 minutes in the entire Mavericks series. They moved into the bench because he didn't match up well. They started playing Moses Moody 15 minutes a game, who had played basically no minutes the whole season. So I think that Steve Kerr is a really good, he draws up really good plays, effective for his shooters, right? If you look at his team and like the system that they run, Clay and Steph are always running around. Like they are constantly on the move. And I think that that's one huge thing is he's implemented like off-ball movement to perfection. And then he just understands like matchups really well and how to use his players to their best role, right? Like when they were getting out rebounded by Steven Adams a bunch, they benched Jonathan Kuminga and put in Kevon Looney, who has been, an absolute monster for them, grabbing 20 rebounds a game, basically. And I don't know. That's what I think. I think he allows his players to play to their strengths, even if it's not like the traditional thing. Like, like Nemanja Bjelica, he lets him be a point guard sometimes and take the ball down the court. This 6'10" power forward who I don't know. What do you think? What do you think Steve Kerr's done for the team?
I think it's just his offensive system is so. I think that's pretty much exactly what you said. It's his offensive system is so. It's like a Nate Oates. It's like what Nate Oates is wanting to run. It's a fast-paced offensive system that absolutely fits Steph Curry very well, and in turn makes everyone go. And I think, it went from a slower pace with Mark Jackson to a fast pace with Curry and Thompson. They're all, especially when they're out there together, they're always moving, a lot of movement, a lot of moving parts, and you're not going to be able to defend them all at one time. And then one of them's going to get wide open, they're going to pull on it, and they're going to nail it because we don't know how good they shoot. And I think his offensive system has just been so good. And when he has who he needs in his system, you're not going to beat them. I mean,
and I think that one thing too that I kind of touched on, but I want to emphasize that he does that someone like Nate Oates didn't do great this last year, as he's been able to. He wants to run his system right, but he's been able to adapt it very well based on his personnel. Like you look, he had Harrison Barnes for the first championship. Then he got Kevin Durant, changed it, and made small forward more of a focal point. And then now he has Andrew Wiggins. It's less of a focal point again, although it's more than when it was Harrison Barnes. So it's always shifting based on who he has, who's available. And even injuries, I think, have helped with that in a way. You're going to say, wow, injuries have helped. But it's made the team more adaptable, right? Like you're not – so you look at the Lakers, right? LeBron went down and they were miserable. But the Warriors, they suffered through that miserable time. And now, say Steph Curry goes down, God forbid, in the playoffs, they have Jordan Poole, who's been getting all this experience at point guard, can step right in. Say Draymond Green goes down. You have Jonathan Kuminga, who's been getting prepared for the role. And so I think that that's something that Nate Oates, you mentioned specifically, struggled with. He tried to force the same system he had last year, and the defense wasn't good enough. The shooters weren't good enough. And I think that was one big problem that Alabama had.
Right. But, I mean, I think they basically run the same system, and that's why, and I love the system. It's either it's very high risk, high reward system. And, my only concern for the Warriors is if Boston is able to force them, to shoot more contested threes and they start not falling, what do you do then? But the thing is, we all know there's not a better drive-in than Steph Curry.
Right.
But who gets to the line better than Steph Curry? Who draws fouls better than Steph?
Actually, Steph Curry doesn't draw that many fouls. He gets hacked a lot.
He does get hacked a lot. But it's also, I think the same thing is I think that, Clay's a good mid-range shooter. Draymond's not a bad mid-range shooter. And Kevon Looney has been great. I mean, and then there's Andrew Wiggins, who I feel like is a vital part. I think in the end, Andrew Wiggins is going to have a good finals because they're going to double down on Curry and Thompson, whoever has a hot hand.
Right.
But in the end, I think Curry gets it done. And I think I'm going to go on and call it now. Steph Curry gets his finals MVP.
I think that is one interesting thing. And the biggest roadblock, I think, to Steph Curry winning MVP is that the Celtics do have the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and the last guard to win Defensive Player of the Year since, I believe, Gary Payton in Marcus Smart, which is going to be a pretty interesting matchup. However, Marcus Smart didn't do – I mean, I know it's a huge size difference, but Jimmy Butler was still able to, do his thing against Marcus Smart.
I think Gary Payton coming back makes a difference.
Yes, I think Gary Payton's good because he can match up on someone like Derek White, someone like Jaylen Brown, I don't know if he can necessarily match up on Jason Tatum that well, but Andrew Wiggins is a pretty good defender. I think that he's kind of underrated in that aspect, that he's a very good wing defender. And the Warriors as a whole, they're 1 through 5. Steph Curry's probably their weak link on defense, but he's an above average NBA defender. I think he gets a rep because he's such a good scorer. People just assume he's not a good defender, but he's a pretty good NBA defender. And then he's the weak link. So I think that
as good as Draymond is, he doesn't have to be perfect. I mean,
right.
But I think in the end, I just think the Warriors' firepower is a little too much for Boston. I like both teams. It's hard not to like the Celtics, but as a huge Steve Kerr fan, as a huge Warriors fan, I think I don't want to just hand it to them and just get a little too, do like the 2017 and lose it in 7, which was heartbreaking to Cleveland. But as long as Draymond keeps his head on a swivel, doesn't get suspended,
right?
And if they can just play, if the Warriors play their game, I don't think Boston can stop it. I think the better team wins, and I think it'll be Warriors in 6. I think they'll win it in 6, and Steph finally brings home his Finals MVP.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'm out of stuff unless you have something you want to touch on.
I'm out of stuff. As you probably, well, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, because I think you probably would have. I'm surprised Joe hasn't given me hell on it. I have never seen Top Gun, the original.
Yeah, I saw it, and I forgot to mention it to you.
I'm actually gonna watch that tonight, so I can go see the movie with my mom this weekend. I've heard good things. So I'm excited about that. We'll see how that goes, and that's about all I got. Be sure to check us out on the web, sportflashmedia.co. We're going to try to get, now that everything is starting to settle back down between sporting events, I'm going to start trying to put articles out there, make them longer, trying to make them longer and better. If you have any ideas on things for us to do articles-wise, let us know. As Joe said, we're also looking for writers. I think we've gotten a few. That's Joe's portion of this. I'm just letting him handle it. But if you want to write, write articles for us, just shoot us a DM on Twitter to our SportFlash Media account or to our personal accounts. So, yeah, that's about all I got.
Same here. Thanks for watching, everyone. And Clack, you can be my wingman anytime.